Here's something mental about Formula 1. Daniel Ricciardo can beat Sebastian Vettel one year and get destroyed by Lando Norris the next. Pierre Gasly can look like an amateur at Red Bull and then win races at AlphaTauri. Valtteri Bottas can challenge for championships at Mercedes and then celebrate points finishes like their victories at Alfa Romeo. So what's going on here? Are these drivers good or aren't they? The answer is, nobody has a bloody clue, and that's the problem. Formula 1's hybrid era has been absolutely dominated by machinery. First Mercedes won everything for 7 straight years, then Red Bull can't stop winning. Now it's probably McLaren's turn. The performance gaps between cars are so massive that sometimes you wonder if they're even racing the same sport. In 2020, the Mercedes was so stupidly good that statistical models reckoned it gave its drivers a 242-point advantage over an average car across a season. When Hamilton won the title by 124 points over his teammate Bottas, you could easily say it was all down to the car. And a huge chunk of it was the car, but not all of it. Studies looking at decades of F1 data worked out that roughly 2/3 of performance comes from the car and team, with 1/3 from the driver. So the car might be the main character, but that remaining third is still massive. Put an average racer in a Mercedes and they'd either crash or finish nowhere. But when you're comparing two proper F1 drivers, the one in the better car usually wins. The only time in this hybrid era where we got a proper head-to-head between two different cars was 2021 with Hamilton versus Verstappen. Even then, clever analysis suggested that in equal machinery, Verstappen might have had a slight edge on Hamilton in 2021, maybe beating him 56% of the time in identical cars. If you're still sad about 2021 saying it was unfair, here is another example to prove the point. George Russell spent 3 years driving for Williams when they were proper garbage. He routinely qualified dead last and had 0 points to show for it. On paper, he looked like a complete nobody, but insiders could see Russell's talent in how he squeezed every tenth out of that slow car. Mercedes noticed. When they gave him a chance in Hamilton's car in Sakir 2020, he nearly won the bloody race. In his first full Mercedes season in 2022, he finished 4th in the championship with regular podiums. Same driver, different car, completely different results. Russell's ability hadn't suddenly transformed overnight. The context around him did. Mercedes had to evaluate his true skill despite him being stuck in an uncompetitive Williams. They looked at signs like his qualifying heroics and his dominance over teammates, plus his junior record told them Russell in a proper car could be special, which he proved once given the machinery. This story repeats constantly in the hybrid era. Time and again we see that a driver is only as good as their car, yet the truly great drivers find a way to shine even in rubbish equipment. Teams are desperately trying to untangle this driver-car connection to figure out how much credit or blame each deserves. Teammate comparisons are the classic starting point for isolating driver impact. Every F1 team fields 2 drivers in supposedly identical cars, creating the closest thing to a controlled experiment racing gets. Same car, same day, same track. Which driver does better? If driver A consistently outqualifies and outraces driver B in the same machinery, it's strong evidence driver A is extracting more performance. Over F1 history, most teammate pairings are reasonably balanced, so a driver who dominates multiple teammates is likely something special. The single strongest predictor of a driver's championship position is how strong their teammate is, because teammate strength is basically a proxy for car performance. A graph from one study showed a near-perfect correlation between a driver's points ranking and his teammates' ranking. If your teammate finishes second in the championship, odds are you're either first or third. If your teammate is 18th, you're probably 17th or 19th. This underlines that a huge part of driver performance, as measured by results, is really car performance in disguise, hence the need to dig deeper. Qualifying performance is where things get interesting. It's the purest speed test in F1. Low fuel, new tyres, one flying lap. It strips away race variables like strategy or traffic and asks simply, how fast can you go around this track? During Pierre Gasly's nightmare 2019 stint at Red Bull, his qualifying deficit to Max Verstappen averaged a whopping 0.9 seconds. Gasly managed to out-qualify Max just once in 12 attempts, an almost unheard of thrashing at this level. When Alexander Albon replaced Gasly mid-season, his average deficit to Verstappen was about 0.5 seconds, still large but significantly better than Gasly's. These numbers quantified what everyone could see. Gasly was nowhere near Verstappen's pace in the same car. On the flip side, take McLaren in 2023 with Lando Norris versus rookie Oscar Piastri, where their qualifying battles were often decided by mere hundredths of a second. That indicates both drivers are operating at a very similar level. But raw qualifying pace isn't everything. Drivers can have different specializations. Some are Saturday specialists who can nail one mega lap, while others excel on Sunday with racecraft and tyre management. Sergio Perez has often been average in qualifying, but brilliant at making tyres last in races. Telemetry data reveals these nuances in driver style. Engineers behind the scenes have even more advanced metrics to disentangle driver versus car. They simulate optimal lap overlays to see if a driver is reaching the theoretical limits of the car. Unfortunately for us, that level of detail is private data. However, we can still piece together what teams do to maximize driver performance from open sources and interviews. Daniel Ricciardo's journey shows how a driver's form can swing dramatically with context. In 2014, he shocked the F1 world by not only matching Sebastian Vettel at Red Bull, but actually beating the four-time champion. Ricciardo won 3 races that year to Vettel's 0, showing fearless overtakes and trademark late-breaking moves. Fast forward to 2021-2022 at McLaren, and Ricciardo was consistently outperformed by younger teammate Lando Norris. His qualifying shortfall and race pace deficit became regular talking points. Norris was a later braker who'd charge deep into corners and scrub speed quickly. Ricciardo had a style honed at Red Bull of braking earlier and carrying speed through, but the McLaren just didn't reward that approach. In 2022, Norris openly said the McLaren had specific and unique characteristics that required an unusual driving approach, one that didn't come naturally even to him at first. He noted that he eventually became comfortable with a car that had a nervous front end, whereas Daniel preferred a car that was more stable. McLaren team principal Andreas Seidel noted that Daniel had said many times that he just never felt fully comfortable in their car, especially when pushing it to the absolute limit. That lack of confidence translated into being a couple of tenths slow, tiny differences that added up to significant lap time loss. Ricciardo later analysed that he and the team may have overanalyzed the situation, trying so hard to change his style that he lost the natural feel that made him quick. He recalled that in his very first race for McLaren at Bahrain 2021, he outqualified Norris with minimal preparation, simply driving on instinct, and wondered if all the engineering tweaks afterward actually led him astray. McLaren eventually took part of the blame. Seidel stated that for a driver, being able to extract performance from the car is a team effort, and he took responsibility that they as a team couldn't find the magic to unlock those percentages of performance they saw occasionally. Ricciardo didn't simply lose talent after 2018. The environment around him changed. The car concept, the team atmosphere, even his own psychological state, and that created a performance delta. Pierre Gasly's trajectory is another rollercoaster. Promoted to Red Bull Racing in 2019 as a hotshot youngster, Gasly found himself struggling badly alongside Max Verstappen. He was nearly a full second slower in qualifying on average, and by mid-season, Red Bull had seen enough. They demoted him back to the junior team after just 12 races. Gasly described the demotion as a punch to the gut, a huge blow to his confidence. Here was a driver who knew he was quick, yet in the Red Bull A-team he looked lost. Helmut Marko suggested Gasly's struggles were psychological and that he wasn't coping with the pressure of Verstappen being much quicker. Back at Toro Rosso, Gasly rebuilt himself spectacularly. He scored an emotional podium in Brazil 2019. In 2020, he stunned the paddock by winning the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in the AlphaTauri, holding off Carlos Sainz's faster McLaren in a pressure-filled final stint. What changed? The context physically and mentally. The Toro Rosso environment was built around Gasly as the team leader, not Verstappen. The car wasn't expected to win, so he could approach weekends with less pressure. By untangling himself from the Verstappen comparison and operating where he was the reference, Gasly flourished.
Lando, would you welcome Max as a teammate?
Yes, but it's unlikely to happen.
No discussion of driver performance variability would be complete without Fernando Alonso. He's often cited as one of the most skilled and competitive drivers on the grid, a two-time champion who many feel could have been five-time champion if the cards fell differently. In the hybrid era, Alonso has driven for Ferrari, McLaren Honda, Alpine and Aston Martin. He didn't win a race in any of those years because none of those cars were truly race-winning caliber for most of those seasons, yet Alonso's individual performances often stood out. In 2014, as Ferrari fell off the pace, Alonso still dragged that car to podiums and destroyed his teammate Kimi Räikkönen. During the dreadful McLaren Honda years, Alonso would still occasionally qualify that underpowered, unreliable car far higher than it deserved. Then came 2023. Alonso, at 41 years old, gets into an Aston Martin that's actually competitive at the front. Suddenly, he's on the podium in 7 of the first 14 races. The world was reminded that his racecraft, strategy sense, and sheer speed had not waned. As he quipped after one podium, he was enjoying this 2023 Aston Martin much more than the last 10 years of cars. Alonso's case illustrates that truly great drivers tend to perform at a high level in any car. The difference is what that yields. In a bad car, Alonso's excellence might yield 9th instead of 13th. In a good car, the same excellence yields a trophy. From all these examples and data, we can identify which aspects of performance seem intrinsic to a driver and which are highly context-dependent. Stable indicators include qualifying pace relative to a teammate. While the absolute lap time depends on the car, the gap to your teammate is a constant reference. If a driver is a qualifying ace, they tend to carry that strength to any team. Wet weather or low grip prowess is often an innate skill stemming from car control, feel and confidence. Drivers like Hamilton, Verstappen, Hülkenberg or Button consistently perform well in rain regardless of the car. When it rains, you expect someone like Max to still shine relative to his teammate, is what I'm saying. Racecraft and overtaking ability is partly about skill and partly mindset. Some drivers are consistently good at starts, wheel-to-wheel battles and judging passes. Those traits usually persist regardless of car. Fernando Alonso is renowned for first-lap aggression and racecraft. Sergio Perez built a reputation as an opportunistic racer who could manage tyres and strike at the right moment. Adaptability is more intangible, but drivers who have switched teams frequently and still delivered quickly show they can extract performance from different packages. Carlos Sainz Jr. is a modern example. He drove for Toro Rosso, Renault, McLaren, then Ferrari, usually hitting a good level early at each. His driving style is adaptable enough to different car characteristics. And by the way, I've made an entire video about Carlos Sainz, speculating if he's still got enough in the tank to bring podiums for Williams. You should check it out. And if you made it this far into the video, subscribe! On the flip side, context-dependent performance aspects include confidence and mental state. We've seen how a driver low on confidence can see their performance drop off a cliff, and the same driver brimming with confidence can be unbeatable. Confidence can be fragile. A couple bad races or public criticism from the team can start a downward spiral. Car-specific skill alignment means a driver might look like a genius in one car and average in another, simply because cars have different strengths and require different driving techniques. Sebastian Vettel was dominant in 2011-13 with Red Bull's blown diffuser cars, which had massive rear downforce and suited his technique. When that concept was banned for 2014 and cars had more rear instability, Vettel struggled to adapt initially. Team strategy and operations can make a consistently fast driver's results suffer if the team often makes strategic errors or slow pit stops. A driver could be quick, but if their tyres are shot because the team pitted at the wrong time, fans might think the driver lacks race pace. Motivation, particularly for veterans, can ebb and flow based on the competitiveness of the car. Kimi Raikkonen was known to lose interest if the car was a midfield runner, whereas when he had a sniff of victory, he came alive. On the technical side, certain key engineers have repeatedly given their drivers championship-caliber cars. Adrian Newey is the prime example. The cars he's designed have won 14 Drivers' Championships and 12 Constructors' Championships across different teams. If you're a driver and Adrian Newey is designing your car, chances are you'll be in contention. When McLaren's fortune started to turn around 2019-2020, suddenly drivers like Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris were regular podium threats, whereas a few years prior the same team had been nowhere. In 2023, McLaren once again made a leap mid-season after a major technical restructuring. Team principal Andrea Stella brought in veteran engineers and emphasized a culture of risk-taking, pushing boundaries, but with confidence and no fear of blame. The result was a much improved car that from mid-2023 onward was often the second fastest on the grid. Norris and rookie Piastri went from scraping for minor points to fighting for podiums. Consider the opposite, a dysfunctional team environment. Ferrari in the past decade has had several management and technical shake-ups, often accompanied by public pressure. Drivers there have spoken of needing to manage not just on-track performance, but off-track politics. Sebastian Vettel's decline in 2020 came amidst a fractured relationship with management and a car that was tricky to drive and off-pace. When he moved to Aston Martin in 2021, a smaller, more positive environment, Vettel was rejuvenated enough to snag podiums and nearly win a race in Hungary. He mentored the team and his form stabilized at a decent level. Team culture affects how drivers cope with failures and learn. A team like Mercedes under Toto Wolff became known for transparency and analysis. They debrief every issue thoroughly, but also support the individuals involved. That kind of environment can help a driver improve year on year. Car development direction is also part of entanglement. Teams often bias development toward the feedback of the driver who's getting better results. This can create a self-reinforcing cycle. Red Bull post-2018 built around Verstappen entirely. By 2020-21, the car concept was very much tailored to Max's aggressive turn-in style. When Perez joined in 2021, he initially struggled to adjust to a car set up for Max's preferences. Over 2022, Red Bull made the car more stable, which Perez liked, and he improved. But as 2023 went on, updates made it pointier, and he fell back relative to Max. If you want to ignite a fiery debate on an F1 forum, just ask how much is it the car and how much is the driver. Fans have wrestled with this question forever, and the hybrid-era dominant streaks have made the debates even more intense. Max Verstappen's dominance in 2022-2023 has sparked debates reminiscent of the Hamilton ones. Max's fans argue he's operating at Schumacher levels of excellence. Others concede Max is great, but insist any of the top guys would also be winning in that Red Bull. It's just that good. Social media amplifies these takes, sometimes with a toxic edge. Every time Hamilton struggled in 2022, anti-Hamilton voices crowed that without the best car, he's nothing, conveniently forgetting 15 years of excellence prior. Likewise, when Verstappen has a bad day this season, some pounce to say when his car isn't perfect, he's human after all. Fan discourse loves hypotheticals and what-ifs. Put Prime Alonso in that second Red Bull alongside Max. Would he beat him? Give Hamilton and Max both a midfield car, who drags it further up? These will never be answered definitively, but they fuel the narrative that drivers do make a difference. It's just hard to isolate. And maybe that's the point. Perhaps the entanglement is part of the appeal. It gives us stories, the redemption arcs, the mystique of what could have been, the rivalry fueled by uneven fortunes. It teaches humility too. Even the best need the right circumstances. So, who's really good at Formula One? The answer is brilliantly complicated. The ones who are consistently good are those who manage to minimize the dips when context changes. The Hamiltons, Verstappens, Alonsos who find a way to deliver 99% of what's possible nearly every time. But even they are mortal without the right machinery. Then there are those who are situationally good. Given the right car or team, they're formidable, but outside that comfort zone they struggle. Being able to tell which is part of the fun and sometimes frustration of being an F1 fan. Perhaps the wisest stance is to admire the entanglement itself. When a driver and car come together in perfect harmony, we're witnessing something special. And when we see a driver outperform a rubbish car, we're witnessing that spark of human skill that even slower machinery can't fully extinguish. So, the next time someone asks who's really good at F1, the driver or the car, you can say both, always. As one clever analyst put it, fans will forever obsess over that last few percent that is the human element. Would you agree with him? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.